Saturday, June 22nd, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. We have more excessive heat to talk about in today's weather forecast, continuing across much of the United States, and new rounds of severe weather that we're going to be diving into as we go through the video as well, and your tropical weather update at the end of the video. So if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those later on today. So let's look here at your morning lows this morning. Again, very mild here. Basically, like what we've been seeing for the last couple of mornings across the eastern United States and the southeastern United States. We're starting off into the 70s, and we have more heat headlines with heat advisories in the orange from the Ohio Valley eastward to the Mid-Atlantic and up the I-95 corridor towards New York City and Boston, with those heat advisories in the orange and excessive heat warnings there in the pink. We also have heat headlines out across the desert southwest, so the Sacramento Valley there, heat advisories in the orange and excessive heat warnings in the pink as well, especially even up here into northwestern portions of Utah. There's the ridge of high pressure. You can see where the center of that is across Southern California, and it extends all the way east into the Carolinas and Virginia. So a lot of the southern U.S. here engulfed in that excessive heat. And you can see this afternoon, here are your high temperatures into the 90s across much of the south and the east. And that extends back out west as well into the triple digits into parts of the Sacramento Valley. And when you really factor in the moisture content of the atmosphere, this is what the heat index is going to feel like to your body as you walk outside. A lot of the triple digits from Kansas City down into Wichita, Oklahoma City, and Tulsa, the Little Rock and Memphis area, all the way down into Dallas, Fort Worth, Shreveport, Lake Charles, New Orleans. You guys understand it's very hot down here. Heat index values into the triple digits this afternoon. We did have a lot of severe weather yesterday, mainly damaging wind reports here. Thankfully, no tornado reports from your Friday, June 21st, but notice where those happened. We're on the northern periphery of the heat across portions of the Rockies, up into the Midwest, and in the Northeast saw some of that as well. Well, we have that again. That is in play. We have a cold front draped across the Midwest today and the Great Lakes in the Northeast. That will bring more rounds of severe weather. Slight risk of severe weather for places like Des Moines, Chicago, Milwaukee, over here toward Grand Rapids, and then also over here into western Massachusetts and the Hartford area and Connecticut, seeing a slight risk of severe weather there as well. Mainly the primary hazards from these storms will be damaging winds, 60, perhaps even 70 miles per hour in more isolated instances. The hail threat, not too big of a deal today. A lot of weak, thunderstorm cells that really don't have the capability of producing those bigger hailstones. But a few tornadoes will be possible along that cold front from Michigan down into southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, eastern Iowa, and northern Missouri as we go through the afternoon here and into the evening. So let's look at this and break this down step by step. Looking at the thunderstorm fuel here, we have some pretty high values, especially back into Iowa, southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and northern Missouri. That's where that larger slight risk is. Instability there, not the strongest we've ever seen it, but 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram. Some stronger instability along those lines of 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram, also across the Northeast as well. So going through the afternoon, we're watching that cold frontal boundary as it sags southward through the Midwest. That's going to light up a line of thunderstorms from Milwaukee down there through the western suburbs of Chicago, Rockford, Illinois, back there toward Davenport, and then into the Kirksville, Missouri region this evening. That could provide the threat for some outflow winds of in excess of 60 to 70 miles an hour there. We could also see some quarter-size hail and a couple of rotating storms that could produce some tornadoes, but overall the tornado threat remains pretty low. Over here to the Northeast with that smaller slight risk, we have a little bit more spotty storm coverage this evening. So we're not too worried about a long duration severe weather event there. And then early Sunday morning, that cold front moves toward Indianapolis, downstate Illinois, and southeastern Michigan toward Detroit, and weakening thunderstorms the further south you go as we go into Sunday morning. Here are the rainfall totals, though, with that line of storms as it moves through. There's a lot of moisture content in the atmosphere. Like, again, you walk outside, you feel it with those temperatures. That's going to be wrung out in the form of rainfall as we go through Sunday morning here. Some areas along the Highway 20 corridor, I-88, I-80 there in Illinois and Iowa, we could actually be seeing rainfall in excess of 1 to 2 inches as we go through Sunday morning. So there is a slight to moderate risk for flash flooding there, especially across northeastern Iowa, southern Wisconsin, and far northern Illinois as we go through your Sunday morning commute. Also a slight risk for flash flooding for parts of Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island through Sunday morning as well. Speaking of Sunday morning, again, just like clockwork, we start to see temperatures back into the 70s here across the southeast. Temperatures warming back up into the 90s and triple digits. You guessed it, back across the Great Plains and the southeast as we go into Sunday afternoon. Heat index values there on Sunday will be pushing 110 in Tulsa, 105 in Oklahoma City, 104 in Wichita Falls and Dallas-Fort Worth, and 108 over in the Little Rock area as we go into your Sunday, and not even to mention 101 over here into Nashville. So make sure if you do venture outdoors on Sunday to take drinks of water and stay hydrated. There's the cold front on Sunday, progressing through the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes region, and into the Northeast. That's where we have, along and ahead of that front, a severe weather chance, marginal risk extending all the way back toward Little Rock, Memphis, and Nashville here, and even Lexington, Kentucky, and then a slight risk for areas like Vermont, New Hampshire, New York State, western portions of Connecticut, Massachusetts, northern New Jersey, and much of Pennsylvania here as we go into Sunday. Main risk here, again, 60, perhaps 70 mile per hour winds, a lower threat for hail, much like we see today, not really that big of a deal for hail, and then a couple tornadoes are possible across the Northeast as we go through Sunday. There's the cold front. Sunday morning, pretty spotty activity to start the day from Ohio and western Pennsylvania, western New York State, all the way down to Kentucky. As we go into Sunday afternoon, scattered storm coverage. So do note that not everybody will see thunderstorms across the Northeast as we go into Sunday afternoon or evening. But if you get under one of those storms, they could turn severe with all the energy we do have out ahead of that cold front as we go into Sunday evening. And then finally, early Monday morning, as we start the new work week, things look pretty quiet out there. A couple storms here and there across the southeast, and then another storm cluster maybe in northern North Dakota or southern Manitoba to worry about. Other than that, mostly quiet across the contiguous United States to start the weekend or start the week ahead. So looking here at the Sunday time frame, the cold front across the Northeast here will be providing that area near the low pressure system with more rain into southern Quebec, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and even portions of upstate New York. And then more spotty, scattered storm coverage and rainfall amounts further south and west along the Appalachians and down there toward the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. There will be a marginal and slight risk for flash flooding, especially up there in northern Maine. That's where the area closer to the low pressure system will have a lot more lift and a lot more rainfall wrung out because of that lift as we go into your Sunday time frame. Going into next week, here is your height anomalies from Monday, June 24th through Friday, June 28th. Notice the ridge goes nowhere across the southern periphery of the United States here, and you can see where the heat will be building. A lot of the United States will be feeling the heat at times as we go into next week, but also note the axis of the ridge on the northern periphery still remaining across the high plains, into the Dakotas, into the upper Midwest like Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and northern Illinois, and then over here into the Ohio Valley like Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, into West Virginia. We're going to have to keep an eye on the northern and northeastern quadrant of this ridge. On Monday, we're going to have a lot of instability. Now, folks, this gets not really much higher than this, honestly. 9,200 joules per kilogram of instability across parts of South Dakota, southwest Minnesota, northwest Iowa as we go into Monday afternoon and Monday evening. Storm Prediction Center already has a marginal broad brushed area of severe weather in the dark green and a yellow, a slight risk there in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the western UP of Michigan. I do think this slight risk is going to be expanded and possibly even upgraded to an enhanced risk because the Colorado State machine learning severe weather probabilities actually do have that enhanced risk just north of the Minneapolis Twin Cities region as we go in towards the day on Monday. So looking at that, a couple thunderstorms possible Monday afternoon, but then a big complex of storms will be possible Monday evening, crossing through Minnesota, possibly the Twin Cities region, down into western Wisconsin, and as far south and east as eastern Iowa as we go into Monday night. So that could provide more of a widespread threat for 60 to 70 mile per hour winds, some quarter-size hail, and possibly even a few tornadoes there. Going into Tuesday, frontal boundary and a little bit of a, cooler air further to the north, battling the warm air of that ridge further to the south. Where they meet, we're going to have a lot of thunderstorm fuel. Again, look at those purples, whites here, and pinks there. You can see 4,000 plus joules per kilogram on the upper end of this scale here, so a lot to work with. Right now, the Storm Prediction Center not confident enough to put an outlook area out. This is still a few days out, 4 days out here on Tuesday. But the Colorado State Machine Learning severe weather probabilities have a large slight to even a large enhanced risk day of severe weather on Tuesday. This is early next week for places like Chicago, Milwaukee, Grand Rapids, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and back there toward portions of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that as we go into Tuesday. Another big complex of storms could develop here from Lake Michigan and extending west-southwestward through southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, southern Iowa, northern Missouri, and then back toward the Kansas City region, again producing more of those 60, 70 mile per hour wind gust reports, quarter-size hail, and maybe a few tornadoes into Tuesday evening and Tuesday night. Looking at the rainfall in general through the end of the month, through Sunday, June 30th, you can see the areas that do have the rain further north, the northern and northeastern periphery of that heat ridge across the upper Midwest, Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, and also the northeast as well. And then underneath of that, look at that, Texas pretty dry, and most of the southern United States pretty dry as well, and out west as well. Look at that, into California, not really much of a drop of rain. Same thing for Nevada, southern Idaho, southern and southeastern Oregon as well. So pretty dry through the end of the month. National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, still hanging on to a 40% moderate chance of development there just along the east coast of Mexico. The shelf waters there are still a little bit above normal. We have seen some cooling and some upwelling with our recent system, Alberto, that did move through, and that did cause some upwelling, so a little bit less favorable conditions in the central Gulf of Mexico, but those shelf waters are still warm. Not really looking at that big of a formidable system there into the east coast of Mexico, unless you're talking about rainfall amounts. Rainfall amounts could be pretty significant there along the east coast of Mexico, possibly pushing into double-digit territory again through the end of the month, through Sunday, June 30th. Some areas could see up to around a foot of rain, especially in higher elevations. So we'll keep a very, very close eye on that. And looking at the eastern Pacific Ocean, over the next 7 days, not really seeing anything there. So that's some great news. We'll keep you covered throughout the hurricane season in the eastern Pacific Ocean as well. Thank you all for watching. If you did like today's video, give it a like down below. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you get daily weather forecast updates right here on Weather on the Go. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful rest of your weekend out there.